strange parasite alien virus begins spreading through a high school, infecting students and teachers, turning them into monstrous hosts. Can the remaining survivors stop the Queen before the entire town is taken over? Watch the video till the end. At Harrington High, Coach Willis is shouting at his team for not being prepared for the big game. He's particularly harsh with Stan, the star player, who almost stands up to him but is pulled away by a friend. In frustration, Willis flips the bench, spilling all the water bottles. Suddenly, the sprinkler system turns on, and as Willis tries to stop it, someone quietly approaches him from behind. Later that night, after a faculty meeting, the teachers leave the school. Principal Drake realizes she forgot her keys and returns to retrieve them. Inside, she's startled by Willis, who is acting strangely and asking for a pencil. When she gives him one, he unexpectedly stabs her hand. Drake defends herself by scratching him with her keys and runs away, dropping them in the chaos. She tries all the doors but finds them locked, so she hurries to the science room, hoping to escape through the window. Unfortunately, Willis catches up to her, so she smashes a glass on his head and shoves him away. She then grabs a pair of scissors and runs to the main entrance where she sees Mrs. Olsen outside. Desperately, Drake asks for help, but Olsen doesn't have her keys, forcing Drake to return to her office. As she finds her keys on the floor, Olsen screams a warning. Drake races to the door just as a bleeding Willis closes in. After several tries, she manages to unlock the door and get outside, locking Willis in behind her. But in the struggle, she drops the scissors, which Olsen picks up and uses to stab Drake repeatedly. The next day, students start arriving at school, and chaos immediately unfolds. Couples argue in the hallways. Zeke drives recklessly and sells illegal drugs from his car trunk, and Casey is bullied the moment he steps off the bus. Maribeth, a new student, struggles to make friends. Meanwhile, Zeke heads to the bathroom to sell his drugs and fake IDs, while Casey tends to his injury in a stall. In the teacher's lounge, the staff notices that Willis has been drinking an unusual amount of water. Olsen enters and has an uncomfortable conversation with him. During class, the shy Miss Burke is surprised when Zeke, usually a poor student, gives a surprisingly intelligent answer. Elsewhere in the hallway, Stan tells his girlfriend Delilah that he's quitting the football team to focus on his studies. Delilah isn't happy and breaks up with him, saying that cheerleaders should only date football players. During lunch, Maribeth tries to befriend Stokely, but Delilah interrupts and mocks Stokely, driving her away. Stokely walks back inside and notices Olsen acting very strangely. Meanwhile, Casey finishes eating lunch near the football field and finds a strange bug on the grass. Curious, he takes it to his science class and shows it to Mr. Furlong, who examines it under a microscope. Furlong says it looks like a species that usually lives inside squid and octopus, which seems odd because they are in Ohio. Some features of the creature are unfamiliar, leading Furlong to think it could be a new species. When someone accidentally spills water on the bug, it starts moving, so Furlong places it in the aquarium. The creature immediately begins swimming and shows off thin barbels. When Furlong puts his hand in the tank, the creature quickly replicates and bites his finger with sharp teeth. They decide to call a university for further investigation. Meanwhile, Stan tells Coach Willis that he's quitting the team. Surprisingly, Willis takes the news calmly. Casey sees Willis standing under the sprinklers but is stopped by Olsen when he tries to take a picture. Meanwhile, Casey meets up with Delilah because they both work for the school paper. They notice an unusually large delivery of water bottles and decide to sneak into the faculty lounge to investigate. While they're hiding in a closet, they overhear Olsen and Willis talking weirdly about how the climate killed Brummel and how all the teachers have been commuted, leaving only the students to deal with the mess. Their conversation gets even stranger when the school nurse enters the room. Olsen and Willis surround her and push her onto the couch. To Casey and Delilah's shock, Willis' face changes and he bites the nurse's ear. They panic and accidentally reveal Brummel's body as they try to escape. Willis hears the noise, opens the closet door, and the teens hit their teachers and run away. The nurse grabs Delilah's leg, but Casey pulls her free. They run into Drake and ask for help, but when they see her smile at Willis and the others, they realize she's part of the conspiracy and flee the school. Casey quickly returns with the police and his parents, but when they check the closet, they only find a resuscitation doll. Casey is scolded for what they think is a prank. Later, Casey notices Drake talking privately with a police officer, who then starts acting strangely. Worried that his parents might get involved, Casey begs them to go home. That night, while his parents search his room and confiscate his phone, internet, and music, grounding him, Casey tries to sneak out through his window. He's shocked to see teachers standing on his front lawn. He slips and almost gets caught, but when his dad comes outside, the teachers disappear. The next day, Casey, still scared, goes to school and becomes more worried when he sees Willis talking to his dad. In the teacher's lounge, the staff are drinking a lot of water and even fixing the air conditioner. In class, Stokely accidentally falls into Stan's lap, and they start talking and bonding over their future plans. The teacher announces a special test where students have to list all their living relatives. Later, in the hallway, Stan and Stokely see a lot of students waiting for what seems to be an ear checkup. Stokely tries to spy on them, but the door closes before she can see anything. Stan also notices Olsen coming in with several police officers. Meanwhile, Zeke and Maribeth are getting close, though Maribeth refuses Zeke's usual products. Zeke notices that students are behaving more calmly than usual, and that there's a long line at the drinking fountain. Two students come to buy all of Zeke's remaining supplies and get upset when he doesn't have more. Burke, now more confident, shows up and insults Zeke, embarrassing him in front of everyone. In the library, Casey goes to Stokely for help since she's into weird fiction. After telling her about the strange things happening, she jokes about about aliens, and Casey starts to think she might be right. The group, now including Stan and Delilah, heads to the science lab but finds the aquarium empty. They discuss the possibility of an alien invasion, and Zeke and Marybeth enter the room next to the lab to get some chemicals. Hearing their conversation, Zeke decides to prank the group by pretending to be hurt by aliens when he and Marybeth join them. Suddenly, Furlong, one of the teachers, appears and demands to know what's going on. Zeke mentions Casey's alien theory to embarrass him, but instead, Furlong covers the window and admits he sent the strange creatures to the school. When Zeke tries to leave, Furlong violently pushes him to the ground. Casey tries to fight back but is grabbed by the neck, and Delilah is pushed away when she tries to help. Zeke removes the blade from a paper cutter and, after slashing Furlong's hand, watches as the severed fingers begin crawling toward the others. Furlong, jumping onto Zeke, reveals small tentacles emerging from his cut fingers. Zeke reacts by stabbing him in the eye with a pen and then kicking him off. As the fingers crawl toward the teens, Furlong throws Zeke against an aquarium. Zeke starts backing away and eventually falls dead. The group realizes that Zeke's illegal powder is deadly to these creatures. Casey notices a parasite coming out of Furlong and collects it for evidence. The group then leaves the lab and walks down the corridor, where they see all the other students staring at them, and those in classrooms are acting perfectly normal. They get to the parking lot, find cops blocking the road, but Zeke quickly turns his car around and drives away. At Zeke's house, in his garage lab, they discover he has a gun. Casey gives the parasite to Zeke, who places it in a rat cage and adds some water. The parasite reacts immediately, infecting the rat through its ear. Zeke dissects the rat and discovers that the parasite is an alien species that controls its host. It needs moisture to survive, which is why Zeke's diuretic powder, which dries things out, killed the parasite inside Furlong. Stokely suggests that there must be an alien queen controlling the parasites, and if they kill her, they can eliminate all the parasites at once. An argument breaks out about how to proceed, and they realize any of them could be infected. Zeke decides they should use the powder to prove they are not infected. Casey takes the powder first and starts giggling as it takes effect. Zeke refuses to take his own powder, so Stan grabs the gun and forces him to. Soon Stan and Stokely also take the powder and start giggling. When it's time for Marybeth and Delilah, the girls dare each other. Marybeth takes her powder, but Delilah suddenly drops the pen and reveals she is already infected. She pushes Stan away while Casey grabs the gun, but he hesitates to shoot. Stokely takes the gun from him and starts shooting at Delilah, who is destroying the lab to prevent Zeke from making more powder. Stokely's shots miss, and Delilah breaks through the door to escape. The others try to chase her, but she quickly gets into a waiting taxi and drives away. After gathering the remaining powder in a jar, the group heads back to the school where a big game is happening. There are many people there, so they need to stop the aliens before the parasites spread further. They gather in the gym and think that Drake, the principal, might be the queen since she has access to all the teachers. Drake shows up in the gym, and Stan immediately tackles her. With Zeke's help, they use a volleyball net to capture her. Zeke locks the doors, and Stan threatens Drake with the gun, demanding that she sniff the powder. Drake refuses, and Casey considers using the pen on her but hesitates when he sees her desperation. Frustrated, Zeke takes the gun and shoots Drake in the head. When she bleeds normally, the group worries they made a mistake. However, Drake stands up, and the parasites start leaving her body. Marybeth panics and throws the entire jar of powder at her, killing her. The group needs to confirm if their plan worked before the crowd leaves. Stan goes out to the field and sees the football team surrounding Willis, whose parasites are coming out to enjoy the rain. Stan reappears at the gym door and they pass him a powder pen under the door to prove he's clean. Stan grabs it and throws the powder away before running off. With no more powder left, Zeke will need to get the pens from his car trunk. He and Casey exit the gym, moving carefully across the parking lot and hiding under a bus when they spot the football team walking by. Casey decides to draw attention and starts running, leading the team on a chase while Zeke heads to his car. Casey eventually hides inside another bus but is soon found by Delilah. The football team surrounds the bus and starts breaking the windows. Casey manages to escape through the emergency hatch on the roof just in time. Meanwhile, Zeke searches his trunk but can't find the pens. Burke approaches him, flirting as Zeke tries to start his car. Burke bursts through the window, and as Zeke drives off, pens fall out of the glove compartment. Zeke tries to grab one while Burke tries to infect him, causing him to lose control of the car. He quickly regains control and crashes into a bus, causing a small explosion and fire. Zeke escapes with only a minor injury and grabs the pens, only to see Burke's head on tentacles. Distracted, Burke tries to reach her body, giving Zeke a chance to run. Back at the gym, Stokely grows suspicious of Marybeth when she talks about pretending to be someone else. Marybeth suddenly punches Stokely and transforms into her true alien form, revealing she's the queen. Casey returns and runs with Stokely to the pool. The queen follows and jumps into the water, using her tentacles to grab Stokely, who hits her head on the floor and gets pulled into the pool. Stokely regains consciousness, swims to the surface, and escapes with Casey. In the locker room, Casey and Stokely hide while Marybeth searches for them in her human form. Zeke arrives, and they argue about who is the queen. Realizing she's the alien, Marybeth explains that she tricked the test by cutting the bottom of the pen to drop the powder while pretending to sniff it with her nose plugged in. As Zeke prepares to stab Marybeth with a pen, Stokely reveals she's infected too and stops him. Marybeth leaves, and Stokely shows her tentacles. Casey locks Stokely in a storage cell and returns to Zeke, who makes him take more powder to be safe. Casey tests it and confirms he's fine, but soon loses Zeke, who is thrown across the room and knocked unconscious. Casey hears the queen and, while stepping back, is grabbed by Stokely, who has to pull away painfully to escape. Marybeth takes her human form again and explains her home planet is dying, which is why she came to Earth. Meanwhile, Casey sneaks back to Zeke's body to grab the pens and prepares to attack. Marybeth transforms again, and her tentacles start destroying the lockers. Casey runs to the gym and activates the retractable bleachers, hiding behind them to trap the queen. After a brief chase, he jumps just before the bleachers close completely, trapping the queen inside. Casey then stabs her with a pen as she infects him with parasites. Fortunately, the powder kills the queen and the parasites inside Casey. Afterward, Casey checks on Stokely and confirms she's okay. Zeke suddenly appears, and they find he's fine too. A month later, everything is back to normal at school. Zeke has taken Stan's place on the football team, and Burke watches his practice. Subscribe for popcorn. We are racing towards 500 subscribers.